Imagine waiting months, sometimes even years, just for the government to tell you if your student loan payment plan is approved. Imagine checking your account every single day, only to see the same frustrating words, pending review. For more than 1 million Americans, this isn't just a hypothetical. This is their reality. And now, new numbers from the U.S. Department of Education reveal the staggering backlog that continues to haunt borrowers who applied for relief through income-driven repayment plans or the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. Today, we're diving deep into those numbers, the frustration behind them, and what this really means for millions of borrowers who are simply trying to get their financial lives on track. The Department of Education, in a court filing, admitted that it processed 305,000 applications for income-driven repayment in August. On the surface, that sounds like progress. But here's the reality check. More than 1 million applications are still sitting, waiting to be processed. Think about that for a second. That's 1 million families, 1 million households, 1 million sets of borrowers all left in limbo. And this isn't a one-off situation. Back in July, 304,000 applications were handled, and yet, at the same time, another 1 million borrowers were still stuck. Month after month, people are submitting their paperwork, people are asking for affordable payment plans, and yet the line barely seems to move. Education Secretary Linda McMahon, representing the department in this filing, highlighted the progress made. She pointed out that yes, hundreds of thousands of applications are moving through the system. But critics argue that the math simply doesn't add up. If every month the department processes around 300,000 applications, but another 1 million remain in the pipeline, it raises an alarming question. How long is it really going to take for borrowers to see relief? At this pace, some people could be waiting well into next year before they even hear an answer. And for many, that wait isn't just inconvenient. It's financially devastating. Now let's talk about the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, often referred to as PSLF. This program was designed as a lifeline for teachers, nurses, firefighters, nonprofit workers, and countless other Americans who dedicated their careers to public service with the promise that after 10 years of payments, their loans could be forgiven. But the reality of PSLF has been far from what was promised. According to the same court filing, in August, 5,600 PSLF buyback requests were processed. That's a small number, especially when you realize that 74,000 applications were still pending. Just 1 month earlier, in July, 3,200 applications were processed while 72,000 remained stuck in the queue. Yes, there's progress, but it's like trying to bail water out of a sinking ship with a teaspoon. For the borrower who has been faithfully working for years in public service, this kind of delay isn't just frustrating. It feels like betrayal. The update comes in the context of an ongoing lawsuit filed by the American Federation for Teachers. This lawsuit, filed back in March, accuses the Department of Education of actively denying borrowers their rightful benefits. According to the AFT, the department's decision to withhold IDR and PSLF benefits is actively harming borrowers. That's a powerful accusation, and when you look at the numbers, it's easy to understand why they're making it. Every delayed application is another month where a borrower may face higher payments, missed opportunities for forgiveness, and in some cases, collections or wage garnishments. For teachers in particular, many of whom earn modest salaries, the idea that the government is dragging its feet feels unbearable. Now, it's important to recognize that the backlog has come down since earlier this year. Back in May, over 2 million borrowers were stuck in the system, waiting for answers. Compare that to now, with just over 1 million pending applications, and yes, technically, that's a 50% improvement. But critics say that framing the issue as progress misses the bigger picture. Because behind those statistics are real lives. A single mother working 2 jobs to pay off her loans. A social worker barely keeping up with bills while hoping her PSLF application gets approved. A recent graduate who thought enrolling in an income-driven repayment plan would mean lower, manageable payments, but is still being charged at the higher rate because their application hasn't been processed. These stories are not just numbers in a filing. They are the human face of this crisis. Let's dig deeper into what income-driven repayment actually means. For borrowers, IDR plans are supposed to calculate monthly payments based on income and family size. That way, instead of being crushed by a massive monthly bill, borrowers can pay something that actually matches their ability to pay. For someone earning $30,000 a year, their payment might be a fraction of what it would be under a standard plan. Over time, after 20 or 25 years, whatever balance remains could be forgiven. It's a lifeline for millions who would otherwise face financial ruin. But here's the catch. Until your application is approved, you don't get those benefits. That means while your paperwork sits on someone's desk or in some database waiting to be processed, you may still be paying hundreds or even thousands more than you should. And if you fall behind, the penalties, the interest, the stress, it all piles up. The PSLF program is even more emotionally charged. Imagine committing a decade of your life to teaching in underserved schools or working in nonprofit hospitals, only to find out that your application for forgiveness is stuck or denied because of some technicality. The lawsuit filed by the American Federation for Teachers argues that the government has turned PSLF into an obstacle course rather than a benefit. They claim borrowers are being wrongly denied, delayed, or forced into confusion, even though Congress created this program to reward public service. The Department of Education, on its part, insists it is processing as quickly as possible. But for borrowers waiting in line, those assurances often ring hollow. Critics of the Trump administration's handling of student loans say this is part of a broader pattern. Over the years, the system has been plagued with inefficiencies, outdated technology, and mismanagement. At the same time, millions of Americans are watching the cost of college rise, student loan balances balloon, and the dream of financial independence feel increasingly out of reach. When asked why these backlogs persist, officials often cite the sheer volume of applications. And it's true, millions of Americans are relying on these programs. But for advocacy groups and borrowers alike, that explanation feels more like an excuse than a solution. What makes this issue especially urgent is the real-world impact of delays. Picture a borrower who submitted their IDR application in early spring, expecting to see a lower payment in summer. Instead, it's now fall and they're still paying at the higher rate. That could mean hundreds of dollars lost every month. Money that could have gone to rent, groceries, or childcare. Or think about the teacher who applied for PSLF buyback months ago, hoping their loans would finally be wiped clean. Instead, they're opening their mailbox to find another bill, another statement, another reminder that the relief they were promised still hasn't arrived. These are not just financial setbacks. They take a toll on mental health, family stability, and long-term life choices. Even though the backlog has been reduced since May, the department itself has admitted that it could still be months before the rest of the applications are processed. Months. That means thousands of borrowers are bracing themselves for a long, uncertain wait. Some may be pushed into delinquency. Others may put off buying homes, starting families, or investing in their futures because they simply don't know what's coming next. The sense of uncertainty is paralyzing. So where does this leave us? The lawsuit from the AFT is ongoing, and it is forcing the department to provide these updates, shining a light on numbers that might otherwise stay buried in bureaucracy. Advocates hope that public attention will create pressure, pushing the department to speed up the process, modernize its systems, and deliver on the promises made to borrowers. For now, though, the reality remains stark. 1 million people are still waiting, still hoping, still checking their accounts and inboxes every single day for some sign of relief. Until those applications are processed, until those borrowers get the answers they deserve, the crisis of student loan repayment is far from over. And that's why this matters, not just as a story about numbers, but as a story about people. About borrowers who did everything right, who followed the rules, who placed their trust in the system, and are now left wondering if that trust was misplaced. The Department of Education may argue that progress is being made, but for the countless Americans caught in limbo, the wait feels endless. And until something changes, the frustration, the anger, and the desperation will only continue to grow.